Hi, today we're going to look at an introduction to history or Key Stage 3 history, which is year 7, year 8. And today's specific topic is about how do we measure time in history. So you will identify and explain different terms or words that divide history. You will also produce a neat timeline. So make sure that you've got pen, pencil, coloring pencils, and a ruler, because, as I said, it really needs to be neat. And thirdly, you might add some of your own knowledge to this timeline. You will be given some information that you will add, but maybe you can add some of your own information to this. Let's see how it goes. Does that make sense? Good. Have a go at this. You can see there's a start at the bottom, and there are 3 clues here. Have a read through this, through all of the clues, and then think, who might this person be? You can ask your tutor; he might give you some help, but have a think and pause this PowerPoint unless you want to hear the answer straight away. But if not, if you want to have some time to think, pause it now. The answer is Henry VIII. You're absolutely right. Hopefully this wasn't too difficult. You can do this with your tutor if you want. So you can either think of a person, a historic person, and then write down some clues and give them to your tutor, and hopefully he or she will guess who you've got in mind. Or you can ask your tutor to come up with another famous person and with some clues. It's up to you. Have a look at the words below. These are all words that divide up history. So you've got year, decade, century, millennium, period, and age. All you need to do is think, how can you describe a year in different words? So in which other way can you explain what a year is? You might know what a decade is, you might know what a century is, period and age. So have a go. Don't worry about making mistakes. As I can imagine some of these words you've probably never seen before, so that's absolutely fine. And then we're going to look at the answers in a minute. This wasn't too difficult, was it? So for a year, there's different ways of describing a year in different ways. 12 months, 365 days. There are other answers as well. A decade are 10 years. Century, 100 years. A millennium, you might have guessed it, 1,000 years. Period of age or period or age does not define a specific amount of years. So it could be a very short period, 4 or 5 years. It could be a much longer, 100, 150 years, 200 years. So, for example, the Roman period or the Tudor period, whereas the Roman period was much longer than the Tudor period. So period or age does not refer to a specific amount of years. Now we're going to start creating a timeline. It might sound really difficult and confusing, but look at the example and I think it will become very clear how to do this. So start by turning your page landscape and draw a straight line using a ruler horizontally in the middle of the page. Your tutor can help you with this. Then use 2 of the printed lines in your book to represent 200 years. Mark the dates on your line. So all that means basically, make sure you've got the same amount of space between your numbers. So if you look at the timeline below, between 200 and 400, same amount of space between those years. Then you look at 400 and 600, again, you need the same amount of space. This is really important. You don't want different gaps between the years. So make sure this is accurate. But again, your tutor can help you. And then label everything before the year 0 as BC, before Christ, and everything after the year 0 as AD, Anno Domini. The year 0 represents the year Christ was born, but don't mistake this for the beginning of time. There was obviously history before Christ was born. So today we will mainly look at history after the year 0, so AD. You've done this, great. You now need to look at the next slide and you will have to add periods of time, periods of history to your timeline. Take your time, do not rush it, because it's meant to be neat. I don't want rushed work, so take your time. This is, you don't have to race against the time here. And again, ask your tutor for help. So you've got your timeline, and as you can see, I've got various different periods of time in the blue box here. So we've got the Victorians, the Anglo-Saxons, the Normans, Edwardian times, Tudors, Roman Britain, and the Stuarts. You might have heard about some of them, but it's all about getting these periods of time onto your timeline. And remember, you can use the whole page. You don't have to squeeze everything together, so you can be creative and you can use the whole page to add this information to your timeline. If you really fast with this, you might want to have a look at the extension. So mark out and label the following on your timeline: century and millennium. And also, can you add any other historic events to your timeline? So if there's any other period of time that you know about, then feel free to add this to your timeline. You don't have to do it, but you might know something that I don't know. Please add it to your timeline. If you still haven't got enough and you want to do some more work, there's another task for you. You can create a timeline about your own life. So think how old you are, think the year you were born in. So that would be the start of your timeline. So I don't know, 2009, for example. And obviously the end of your timeline would be 2019 or whatever year we've got now. And then you can do it year by year. So you can obviously use this the space between each number could be 1, 2, 3, 4. So each year of your life could be like one bit on your timeline. And then all you can do is you can just add any events that pop into your head. A holiday you might remember, maybe a sibling that was born, anything, a school you went to. It doesn't matter. Any information is interesting and relevant, and you can add that to your timeline, and you can make it look like the one you've just done. You can change the layout, you can make it differently. There's any ways you can do it. You can even add pictures to it, so little sketches, photos, whatever you want. This plenary is so end of the lesson. It's called Splat. I use this in classrooms all the time. It's quite fun. So it's a bit different if you just do it one-to-one, obviously, because we haven't got a classroom. So we slightly changed the rules here. But basically what you have to do is you have to pick one of the words, and you have to, so for example, timeline, and you have to explain the word to your tutor without using the actual word timeline. So you have to give a definition for the word timeline, explain what it is, and then your teacher has to guess which of those words you're explaining, but make sure you don't actually say the actual word. You can then swap around. Your tutor can pick one of the words and define the word, explain what the word is, and you have to guess which of those words is he explaining. Does that make sense? Good. Have a go.